research, analysis, information around components. Is there a foundation component? Is there a window component? Is there a component that would lend information and bring value in a report where perhaps a new school won't be built there, but the lighting system is 30 years old? Is there some value that we could learn by the components instead of by the whole building? So that's the comments I have for you on that right now, and would be happy to take questions.
Do we have any questions?
Sure, this is Andy.
Andy, go ahead.
Well, this is a subject in the rural areas that I've dealt with for a lot of years, and I'm worried that maybe we're asking the wrong people the questions. The designers, the architects, they that want to build the Taj Mahal, that's who we've had to get away from and say, no, you're going to have low ceilings so the heat doesn't go up. You're going to have, A, B, C. And a lot of the districts don't really realize, haven't done this much, and don't have the expertise. So I just caution the people we're bringing to the table may not be the experts that actually know. And where I'm coming from a rural perspective, I've never even heard of either of these two on the list. So it worries me that we're going to, again, have rules come out, and they don't really even have the basis for it.
A great comment, Andy. I too, what comes to mind and what I don't see here is, having lived in rural areas as well, is there are local contractors that know many things about what do and don't work, where parts, especially if you're off the road system, what are common parts and what are uncommon parts. And I really think that we have to have our local contractors involved more so than some of the architects that haven't lived there. Representative Millett.
I wasn't going to speak the whole meeting, but this is important to me. One of the questions that I have for you is, Ms. Milliman, why didn't we include cold climate housing in on the design and architecture phase of this study? How come Envision didn't partner with our own state agency that has expertise on this? And do they still have that opportunity? I think we're missing the picture here. It's not all about design and architecture. It's about placement of where the school is going to be, environmental impacts on the schools.
As far as putting the request for proposal out, we received 3 responses. And those responses, the teams with the specialists, those were built into the request for proposal, and each of those proposals actually used specialists from a number of different areas in the state, and so there are engineers and contractors and project managers. Why one requester used one engineer over another, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that in each of those 3 proposals, the specialists are Alaskan specialists, contractors, engineers, working underneath as part of that team.
Mr. Covey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you recall, members of the committee, last year we visited rural districts as a group, and one of the districts we traveled to was Northwest Arctic, and we had the opportunity to hear there from their director of maintenance, and quite a lengthy presentation. During that presentation, there was a lot of information shared about how important it is for district maintenance people to really have a big say in the design of these things, because in terms of operational in operational realities, after the architects leave and the building is built, someone has to maintain it. And what we typically hear, and what I've heard over the years and witnessed myself, is that although the buildings are designed to serve a specific purpose, sometimes the design doesn't work out as well as it was intended. And we find that school districts later have to go back in and make major changes to buildings that were built, add systems, to prevent freeze-ups and so on. That others, although they have design expertise, they don't have the operational expertise. So I would ask that we ensure that we, as we go through this process, that we really hear from people who are charged and challenged with maintaining these buildings. A case in point, as we heard in Kotzebue, the air handling system in the school at Kotzebue High School, the school's in use for a few hours a day. Yet the air handling system, it all winter long, as the system works, exchanges air and blows hot air out into the Arctic and brings cold air into the building, which dramatically increases cost. So what they had to do was override the system to stop it from doing that, and in doing that, they saved a tremendous amount of money on an annual basis. Those are the types of things that we need to be able to understand on the front end of our construction process rather than the tail end. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Wilson.
Kind of to piggyback off Mr. Covey, the other part that we found too was that they were putting systems in that nobody knew how to work. So even if they did work, we didn't have the specialists in those communities to be able to do that. The other thing I guess I'm concerned that I haven't heard anything about is why are we going ahead with $9 million on design for a school when we have this study going about to find out whether that works? Can you tell me that?
Perhaps the $9 million, if I knew which school you were referencing.
Kivalina. I think everybody here knew.
I don't believe it's $9 million. I think they're
No, it's $9 million. I'm on finance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's just for the design. That's not even to build. That's just for the design.
Well, certainly in the current capital budget, as it sits in design funding for the Kivalina School, and that is in response to overcrowding in that school.
I think it has to do with a lawsuit.
That is in great need of some fixing and rebuilding and designing and new construction. It's one of our schools that was one of the schools named in the Kasaili case, which there were several schools from that era that needed rebuilding. And so the design money that has been put forward, one of the first things that will happen with some of that funding is educational specifications will begin to be built. And by that, I mean that the district will look to see how many students are there, what sorts of rooms are necessary for those students. And it's work that will be used into the future, I think, regardless of which direction the final design and construction heads towards. But, you know, the short of it is that that's a school that is not in good condition. It's overcrowded, and we're continuing forward in a measured step to do business how we're doing business now. And so that's what that design funding is for.
Okay, so I guess I need to remind somebody, the school cannot be built where the town is. We're looking at a road that has to be put in to move the whole community. So I don't see, and I don't have a problem with that they may need the next school. That's not the point here.